Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our special meeting agenda with the Lakes Highway District. Today's date is May 1, 2025. The time is 3 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Duncan, Everline, and Matari. And of course, we have the Lakes Highway District Board here as well.
We need to call up
do you want to
order as well?
You want to go ahead?
Mr.
Yeah.
Adams,
Yep.
Mr. Montgomery, Mr. Marcel. We
Okay.
all stand and say the pledge.
We typically do that in the business meeting, but we can do that here.
I think it's appropriate.
Yep. I'll have you lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment. Would anyone like to speak? Anyone online? No?
We've got a gentleman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, why don't you go up to the microphone? That's operational, correct? Okay. Just state your name, please.
Gary MacDonald, Bayview, Idaho. Mostly I wanted to ask a question about the format. Do I have to say everything I want to say here and now, or will there be a time later to comment on what everyone on the board says?
There's two commenting periods. So there's one in the beginning of the meeting and one at the end. So there will be another opportunity for you to provide public comment if you would like.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, on to our first item, Bayview boat launch and proposed property transfer agreement. It's listed as an action item. This is a proposal that came from Lakes Highway District. So if it's okay with you, Chairman Tweed, I'm going to have you kind of lay everything out for us.
Well, what our thought is we're willing to just give you the land, no money exchange, just quick title over to you guys. That way you don't have to come to us for any kind of permit or whatever. We cannot spend money below high water mark. So it just doesn't make sense for us to even be involved, really. I mean, why should we even be there? In my opinion, we just turn it over to you guys, and the county's done it forever. The boat launch was originally put in by the county, is my understanding. Lakes Highway District had nothing to do with that. I've been around here since 1972, and there definitely wasn't anything done the whole time I was here. So it just makes sense to us just to transfer the land over to you guys, put it in the county's name.
Comments, thoughts?
Well, at this point, the county's not done a cost-benefit analysis. So anytime we're going to acquire new property, I'd like to have a little bit more financial information on that because our operations there in the past have not. So the operations there in the past have not paid for themselves, so they're being subsidized. So I'd want to probably have that conversation.
Also, too, there's a right of reverter in the agreement, and I'm just curious, why have that if you want to just get rid of the property?
The right of reverter was directed by the board to be put in by legal counsel because in the past we gave away a boat launch to only then have it sold within a year to a private party, and that was displeasing to the public, so the board wishes to protect the public's interest in that boat launch. Should the county decide they no longer want it, it would come back to this board, and then this board could seek out another agency to see if it was
Because I couldn't really see the difference between a $1 a year lease and taking the property. In essence, the same benefit would occur. And one of the things that kind of stands out to me, at least, is that, and I appreciate the fact that we're here, but we spoke a couple months ago and we talked about let's get the permit done so we can get the dock installed ASAP. The next step was for us to look at entertaining a $1 a year lease for 1 year so that we could buy some time and figure out next steps. And then the third item was to discuss a longer-term plan. And we haven't been able to get any of those done, and right now we're being presented with, taking over the property. So I'm just kind of curious what happened to change our initial discussion, Chairman Tweet, when we were in Bayview, because I haven't had any discussion with you since. What happened so that it just completely changed? Because the board actually had a meeting afterwards, and the board agreed that we would follow these steps based upon our conversation. And so I'm just curious what changed in the equation so that we couldn't execute what we had talked about.
We actually talked about the deeding the property over to you guys at that time. That was on the table even way before that. And I don't understand why there would be a problem with that.
Yeah, but
the only stipulation we would have in that at all is just like Attorney Weeks said, we don't want down the road to have that property sold to a private individual. I already know who would buy it, and then there would be a serious issue.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I just give you the property. There's no expense.
Well, but why did we even have a conversation about a 1-year lease and have a conversation about getting the permit done?
The reason we really didn't want to do a 1-year lease is because next year we'd be right back at the same table trying to figure this out. And I would like to just put it to bed.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
sure.
I think what has caused the doodle, Chairman, is that the board was under the impression you just needed their permission to reinstall a dock, but instead, due to Department of Land regulations, what was asked of the board was to take out the permit in its name, and the permit says in it that the Lakes Highway District would be operationally responsible for maintenance and operations, and that is outside of their ad valorem parameters of what they can spend money on. I think that's where you hit a halting point.
Yeah, and I think that was the second option. I think the first option was just to get permission for us to install it, and that we were going to submit the application. So that's where we actually started, was getting a letter that would give us permission to install it, so we could file the application with Idaho Department of Lands.
Which the board gave.
Well, not exactly. The board said is that we don't object, okay, and that's different than explicit permission to install the dock. One is explicit, the other is implicit, and and so therefore, I don't even understand why that was such an issue. I mean, I think Director Snyder had provided very plain language of what we needed to submit this application to IDF, so that or IDL, and we could get this done.
And maybe that's the disconnect, because the board believed they had given explicit permission, and they thought the communication they got back is you need to sign the permit. So if that's not the case, and we need a letter that says explicitly you have permission to install it, then maybe that's the hurdle.
Mr. Chairman.
Actually, if Director Snyder could just kind of give a little bit of a background on this, because he's been managing this process, and he is extremely on top of every aspect of this.
Susan, to your point, the first attempt to get the letter, I believe, went out. I don't have it immediately in front of me. I think it was January 13th.
Do you have your mic on?
I do. Sure. I'll move it a little closer.
Thank you. That's better.
I think I sent the letter on January 13th to Lakes Highway District requesting this letter of authorization so we could get the permit. And some weeks went by, and the district responded that, hey, we're willing to do that, but we need a hold harmless agreement inked, as I recall. And so on March 25th, the Board of County Commissioners signed that. And so once it was signed and submitted to Lakes Highway District, I then followed up with, may we have the letter now? And we were told that the hold harmless agreement should suffice, and that was in emails. And I explained that it would not suffice, that IDL needed something that plainly just stated, this is our launch and we're giving authorization for the county to install, to replace the dock. Same footprint, same size. I even wrote the language. And so that was not supported by the district, as I understand. And so my next step was to send a follow-up email some weeks later that asked for authorization or request a letter for no objection. I was really sort of grasping at straws at that point, Susan, for something that IDL would accept. IDL responded to both Eric and I. We were both in that email chain that said, no, that won't work. But in the interim, my next, between those two steps, I had offered the district to just sign the permit application because that would solve it immediately. And so we went from letter of requesting language to then the district said, sorry, we can't do that after the hold harmless. Then I asked them to just sign the permit. They said they couldn't do that. Then I offered the letter of no objection, which they did provide, but the IDL said, I'm sorry, that doesn't pass the sniff test for Idaho code. So that's where we're at today. So everybody has their own position. Mine is simple. I just want to get a dock put in to start with.
Help me understand, Nick, so that the boards are fully aware. When you say you want Lakes to sign a permit application, that then puts the permit in Lakes' name with those obligations, correct?
Well, it would certainly do that. But my thought was, my thought process was when the Board of County Commissioners canceled the lease, that lease agreement stipulated that the leaseor would own all the property once the leasee terminated. So you would already own the dock. My thought was adding another dock doesn't change our long-term discussions about management. It just solves the problem for the public. And so that was my approach is again, I'm the parks guy. I'm just trying to get a dock installed. So I was looking for every opportunity possible, and those are the steps I took. And that's why we're here today is I still don't have anything that allows me to submit that permit as of today.
So Chairman Matari, I'll let the board return to it, but we're sort of back in the position where if Lakes Highway District signs a permit request, we will have a maintenance and ongoing liability obligation, which falls outside our Title 40 powers to expend funds.
Director Shanley wanted to comment.
Well, I guess ultimately the record should speak for itself. I think it's very clear on what we said. Do I need to say that again? I think the record speaks for itself. And I think you'll see the commitment from the Highway District if you go back and look at the correspondence. And I think Nick's clear on the letter he asked for, but I have an email from him on the 2nd that says he just simply needs a letter of no objection, which he got. And subsequently from that time, we got notice from the Department of Lands that that wasn't going to work. And so I took it upon myself at that point to call Department of Lands myself, and they very clearly spelled out the requirements, which I shared with the BOCC and my commissioners, and it says that only persons that have littoral rights or leasees have the right to submit a dock application. That doesn't have a letter component of that. So again, I'll just refer back to the record on where we stand on, you know, the information that's being presented.
Well, I still have a difficult time understanding why we couldn't go with the one-year lease, and now here we are at the 11th hour. The one-year lease would have bought us time so that we could look at this. Commissioner Duncan is exactly right without doing a financial analysis on it. I misspoke earlier. I meant to say exclusive versus inclusive on the language. But the fact is that, you know, I feel like this time is going by and there's different directions going on. And you know, I felt that we had a really good conversation almost, a month and a half ago. And then at that point, we couldn't communicate anymore. And so, you know, now time is going by. I think that it would be a lot to ask for us to take on some sort of, you know, take on the property without understanding, you know, how that will affect us fiscally. You know, I'm much more open. I think the board has explained that it was open. By entering into a one-year agreement. Let's get this done. Let's get the public served for this year, and then let's have discussions over the course of the next 6 can be the day after we enter into this lease. We can have these discussions and figure out, what's going to work best from a long-term perspective.
So, with that being said, what is the big elephant in the room here as far as either us giving you the land or doing a 1 year lease, $1 a year for multiple years or just 1 year, whatever? There seems like to me that there's something that is really bothering people. Is it the cost of the repair of the ramp? Is that a big issue?
Well, how much do you think that would be?
I have no idea.
Well,
I heard one time, I listened to your last meeting, I think it was, or one or two before that Mr. Snyder thought it would be around 800 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that something you feel that we need to be a part of?
I think the question is whether or not we're taking on this financial obligation, because there is going to be an expectation of putting money into that ramp.
Well, I understand that, but the county has basically owned the ramp, other than from the high water mark up, since it was put in. We had nothing to do with putting it in, Lakes Highway District, and all the years that I've known, or even before that, I've been around.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that's, in my mind, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I mean, if we was to take our share from the high water mark up as far as a repair, I think we can do that unless Commissioner Week or Attorney Weeks says I can't. But I think from high water mark up, we can expend money on that, but we can't go below that.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
I understand what you're saying.
Well, I'm just trying to make this thing simple as it can be. I mean, this should have been done a long time ago. We had to hold harmless, and then we had the letter of authorization, which didn't work. That went back and forth 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. And I know, for whatever reason, it seems like the blame is being put on Lakes Highway, but I think there's some blame to be shared on both boards here, that this should have been done, and there should have been some communication before the thing was even taken out, period. Especially the pilings. They were very good pilings, and they should have not been removed. You can fit that new dock right to those old pilings. Yes, you can. Yes,
So-
and I've talked to other people.
Can we hear from the challenges?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, also, I would remind everybody, we did send out a lease. So the county does have a lease, a proposed lease on that.
Proposed lease
For
from,
the Bayview boat launch. We actually sent out a proposed lease on all 3 boat launches that are within Lake's jurisdiction.
and what was the amount on those? You have to jog my memory.
It was modeled after the old one, so I think it's $1.
$1 a year.
$1.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Director Snyder.
I was just going to respond to the piling question. That is actually not how we operate. They're encapsulated pilings. You have to cut them. We save them. We just repurpose them, Mr. Chairman, because the pilings never exactly line up how the old ones were. So we construct encapsulated piling pockets. We don't slide to them. We would have to pick the entire dock assembly up and try and line it up exactly with the old piling. So it is actually quite common. We cut the piling and then we redrive them in their new location. So, and water levels really matter. If you drive it high at Summer Pool, it works perfectly sometimes, but as you know, water is low and Lake Pend Oreille due to the dam. So those pilings are never going to perfectly line up if we have to.
Coming up.
Right, but it is quite common to cut the pilings and we just reuse them. So we still have the pilings and the docks are ready to go.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to argue that point, but I think this thing should be able to be solved. I really do. There's been a lot of emails going back and forth, and we're still at first base, and they haven't even got to first base, really.
Well, again, like I've said, you and I talked, and conceptually we agreed. We talked in front of.
Well, I can't agree to anything, Bruce, on a one commissioner to one commissioner. It's just not even ethical.
Chairman Tweed, I'm sorry, I said
Sorry.
conceptually.
Yeah.
Conceptually, we agreed, and we talked in front of this community in Bayview. And what was said was that let's figure out how to get this dock installed ASAP. Let's figure out how to get a $1 a year lease back in place so we can, for the first year, and then that'll buy us time for a longer term. And I came back to the board, we had that discussion, residents from Bayview showed up, and we did exactly what we said on that first meeting, okay? That was what, at least I thought we were gonna be doing. It didn't work out that way, okay? So here we are today with a completely different option, and it just hasn't been an opportunity to really look at it. You gave it to us, there was no discussion beforehand. I attempted to speak with you beforehand, and you didn't want to speak. You wanted to keep it, this way, which is fine. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the communication was coming through the Coeur d'Alene Press. I mean, we were learning about things through the newspaper before we were hearing them necessarily from the Lakes Highway District, which I found to be a little bit, a different way of communicating, not something that I'm used to at least. So I am all for trying to get this resolved, okay? But I think anything that requires a commitment, a big financial commitment potentially, it's going to take a little bit of time. And that was the entire intent of trying to get that one-year lease implemented so that we could buy some time, but it wouldn't affect the public. And I think, if that's where it needed to go and getting the permit submitted, we're trying to get the permit submitted because of the bylaws and the rules and things like that, then we should have just said, look, if we could get this lease done for 1 year, then this application process will work no problem, and that'll buy us some time. But I get the sense that the way it's being presented to the board is, here's our option. We don't understand what there's a problem with. And I don't understand why we should be accepted to enter into something so quickly without at least the benefit of really having a chance for the board to talk it over, to, see how it really works best for the county and serves people in the long run. Because we want to have a good solution too. And sadly, a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with is legacy stuff. And we've talked about how these leases came about 10 years ago, and they really that board maybe shouldn't have gotten involved with it. I don't know. I wasn't there to see it. What happened and what exactly drove it. I don't understand, and I wasn't a part of the county installing the boat launch. I mean, these are legacy things that these boards, your board and this board have inherited. So we didn't get here overnight. And I don't think we're going to get out of it overnight, but I think the willingness to try to work with Lakes Highway District on whatever we can do to expedite the process so that the folks in this community they're not impacted at this point in time, especially because boating season is coming up. I think, if the board differs over here, I think we're all in agreement to try to figure out that way to buy some time.
So let me understand, when I was at the meeting here a while back, Commissioner Duncan said she wasn't actually in agreement of doing a one-year lease. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or did I misunderstand?
I prefer a one-year MOU.
Huh?
I prefer a one-year MOU, so a memorandum of understanding outlining both parties' responsibilities, and then that way, during that one-year MOU, we would be able to work together to find the best outcome for the citizens of Bayview. And that gives us plenty of time. So Parks and Waterways would be taking care of everything for this summer, and the dock theoretically would be installed, and we could move forward. But anything more than that is going to require more time, and I don't think we have more time. So I'd really love to present a one-year MOU to Lakes Highway District, and I'm pretty sure my co-commissioners, would be similarly minded.
I mean, I'm okay if, Commissioner Eberline, did you have anything you want to add here?
I'm just waiting for you guys.
Yeah.
What?
It's on.
Okay. Would the MOU
Did you
be
want to speak?
legal?
Is it possible, Commissioner Matari, to get a draft MOU going between legal counsel so we can get that moving?
Yep. I believe we already have language. So it'd just be a matter of formatting and sending it over to you. With our commitment today, would you be willing to sign the dock permit so we can move on with that, knowing that our commitment through this MOU would take off the burden of maintenance, for this year?
I would,
Is that actual?
if it's meets the legal parameters.
Well, that's the difficulty. We won't know what the MOU says until we have it. If it's pretty much ready to go, I can commit to this board that I will set aside the weekend and get it back to this board for a special meeting, if we could have that by tomorrow. And then you could advertise a special meeting and go through it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would just suggest that you signing the permit makes you the owner and responsible party to maintain the dock. So that bumps you into the category that Susan mentioned about our levy authority and what we can spend public tax dollars on outside of road construction and maintenance.
Even with the MOU.
But if they sign a 1-year lease, then they can sign the permit, correct?
And they have the lease document to consider that. They've had that for a couple months, I think.
That gives Mr. Snyder the opportunity, though, tomorrow to see if Department of Lands would accept an MOU instead of a lease.
I have a lot of confidence that in the public interest, they'll be more than willing to accept that and let us move forward.
Commissioner Duncan, I think the best path forward here due to our impasse would be the lease. If we could get that lease signed 1 year, $1, and we're out of here and getting a new dock installed. I don't think the MOU is gonna pass legal muster.
With respect to the lease, are we talking about the similar leases in the past, but just changing the dollar amount?
So
Or are there additional stipulations in there?
So what I did, and I'll circulate it back to Ms. Holmes and she can get it back to you, is I took leases that your legal counsel had drafted in the past, added the legal description to it and sent it back out, but I will make sure Ms. Holmes has it. If legal counsel's okay, I also will CC Mr. Snyder on that.
Sure.
So we'll get that back out again.
Counselor, would that also include the other properties? Because we haven't really discussed Lower Twin and Maiden Rock. It's probably advisable, commissioners, both respective boards, to include that. I don't think Lakes Highway District is interested in taking care of that. We're probably best suited to do that right now. So
I did have one for each of those 3 sites.
I figure I just want to make sure if there's any iterations that isn't a miss, and so we can continue to maintain that.
And that I can get out first thing tomorrow morning. I'll just send it out again. And if there's anyone else that the county wishes included in that email, as long as legal counsel authorizes it, I will send it out to them too.
I mean, if it's the same exact language, I can't see it being an issue. Just to buy some time, get this process moving.
Just to be clear, it's not the same exact language as the county has used with lakes because you had a mutual agreement. It's one we've used with other highway districts.
One that the county has used with other highway
It's one the county has prepared for other highway districts for boat launch areas, which Mr. Shanley had reviewed and had approved.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Eberline.
Is this substantially suitable and worthy of doing this?
For 1 year?
Yes.
I think so, because we have
get the
the
show on the
boating.
road.
Yeah, we have the boating public that we want to make sure their activities are not interfered with or disrupted.
Good. That's what we want. Everybody can play nicely. Except for some people who maybe drop a brown colored something on the floor. Anyway.
Does anyone have any other comments they'd like to add? Or are we pretty
So
much?
are we in agreement with that?
Conceptually, yes, absolutely.
Eventually, what does that mean?
Well, that means that if we have language that's been used before and we've just changed the location and the amount is $1 for 1 year and that buys us time, I think that we can all agree that that should be satisfactory.
And Mr. Chair, once everybody's reviewed that on the staff side, you will need a special meeting to approve it because that's not how it's listed on our agenda.
We have a meeting Monday night.
Next, do you have any other comments?
No, I think both boards have worked it out wisely.
Thank you.
You need to hold that thing right underneath you, Nick. I can't hear you.
Is a motion needed for either board or?
I don't think so because it's really not even part of our, it's a little ancillary to our discussion today. So, but with that said, I think we have good direction And unless there's any other comments, questions, feedback, I'd like to go to the public and see if they would like to make public comment. Would anyone like to come up?
Gary's always first. Go first.
Well, thank you for everyone's time. I mean, I know this is not what we want to do, but I appreciate the time you've spent. I did have one question, and this is not to open up another can of worms, but what about the restrooms?
What?
Restrooms.
You can just get closer to the mic.
Restrooms.
Well, this is public comment, so typically you provide your feedback to us. It isn't really an open forum to go back and forth, but we will try to find a satisfactory way. I see no reason for the first year for us to make any changes to that.
Only if, I mean, that's going to be a Parks and Waterways call, not a Board of Commissioners call, just because I think there's some problems with the restroom, and so.
We're happy to maintain it as we historically have for the rest of the summer. We can figure it out later this fall.
That's very nice to hear. And then Commissioner Duncan, and maybe I'm not, I guess maybe I'm not aware. How does one ask a question? Do I have to submit them before the meeting to ask a question and have someone answer?
So yes, you can submit emails to any one of us, to Director Snyder, and that's a better forum. But typically, public comment in our meetings is not a dialogue.
I see. Okay, well, I guess I'll make a comment then. It seems to me like, and I don't mean to single out Commissioner Duncan, but you're the one that made the statement about how the Bayview launching ramps was a subsidized ramp. But yet you have lots of ramps that are under your jurisdiction that there is no fee for. And so Bayview is not so special. There is a method there to collect money. Was. And so it just seems like Bayview somehow has become a special place to the commissioners. We don't understand that. I mean, the people in the audience don't understand with all of the ramps that you take care of. This is just a rhetorical question. What makes Bayview so special that this has turned into this nightmare thing when you have lots of launching ramps throughout the county that are taken care of by Mr. Snyder? And yet Bayview seems to be this bottomless pit of people not wanting to take care of it. And believe me, the boating public does not understand.
I could a little bit, but
So I'll submit some more questions, and believe me, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to make any enemies, but we feel that we have been shortchanged by the whole process. And Commissioner Matari and Director Snyder have apologized to those of us who care that it was handled so poorly, and I appreciate that apology, I do. But and like Commissioner Tweet said, it just seems like there's an elephant in the room that has not been presented to the public. Like, here's the elephant. We don't know what the elephant is. It just seems like somehow Bayview is special in a bad way that where we're not making progress. But maybe today it's going to change that. We get the lease signed, and then we'll all go to work to make a better thing for next year. So at this point, I'll just say good luck to everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make comment? Come on up.
My name is Chad Cadnam. I do live in Bayview, 32-year resident. I did talk to Nick Snyder, the original time frame when the dock was removed. put the platform out in front of Mr. Matari there as well. One thing I ever thought about, you guys, have you ever thought about if you can't maintain the dock as a public entity, what about a grant? I mean, there's grants out there. Could we apply for a grant for the maintenance on the dock? Or if you guys are worried about the dock in general, if they were going to give you the land as a, here's the deed, you own the ground, what about a grant for that? I mean, there's allocated money out there from the state. We could get money from the state for that dock to where we have that public dock in time. Currently, it's at 4 months since it was pulled out, correct? It was December 11th, 2024, and then we all met at the facility with DEQ, Idaho Department of Lands, Fish and Game, and Mr. Snyder herself, wondering why we pulled it out. And we were discussed why it was, but there was no plan at that point in time to put this dock back in. Was I correct? At that point in time, there was not.
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
But so then we move forward. But I'm saying this.
Okay, so go ahead and,
But I'm just saying, as we move forward, we said there was emergency money set aside via his conversation to make sure we got that dock back. And that's what I'm saying here. We do appreciate what you guys came out and did, Mr. Tweet, Mr. Matari, and Nick, when you guys came out and we discussed that. And I hope this moves forward. Everybody, I'm happy you guys are doing this. That's why I'm here. I left my job site, Norman, Idaho today to make sure I was here today to see everybody here from town to make sure this is presentable. And I hope we work this out today. I really do. That's all I have to say.
thank you. Director Snyder, do you want to say anything? No?
I don't want to break format.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, anyone else have any comment?
If I may from here?
Well, we need to get you the microphone. There, if you want to hand him a microphone.
Thank you. My name is David Londeray. I live in what's called Farragut Village, kind of halfway between Bayview and Athol. But we use that Bayview launch quite often. I used it on October 28th of '04, simply to get an ambulance down there to get me off the lake. I took a fall up lake, broke both hips, split my pelvis 5 inches. So since then, I have a hard time getting up and walking around. But I still go out in my boat and can fish now. I can't wade the rivers anymore, so I'm kind of stuck to the lakes. So it's important to me that the fire department, ambulance service has access to get injured people off the lake. And that's why I'm here today, to state that. So without a dock there, believe me, you can't get the ambulance too wet.
Well, thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Here. You wanna-
I'm Ted Bear. I live at 34102 Corbin, Bayview, Idaho. And this is so important to Bayview for the basic reason that it's our only access to that lake in the bay. So, you know, it really is important to us, and it's a very it's a very viable function, and we appreciate the work that you have done on it, and we'll appreciate having that other dock whenever it gets settled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Anyone on the telephone, Jonathan, online? No, Chairman. 3:39, meeting adjourned. Thank you.